All right, so I'm here today to talk about crowdsourcing insights from the world's largest marketplace, or how I learned everything I need to know about crowdsourcing from James Bond movies. So this is more of maybe an industry-directed thing. So this is maybe a talk about how to be a bit more of a guru within your own organization, whether you want to be a proponent of crowdsourcing or you want to help other teams engage in crowdsourcing within an organization like eBay. So who am I to tell you about crowdsourcing? So I'm a product manager in the search metrics team, and our job is, as you might imagine, to measure the search experience at eBay. So our team uses many methods, and we've been very successful leveraging crowdsourcing to improve the search experience. So our team has helped eBay earn millions of dollars in incremental revenue. We do millions of judgments per year, and we've become a go-to resource for teams outside of our own to help them get into crowdsourcing. So what keeps me interested in crowdsourcing? Is it the money, or the trips to Antigua? Is it the adoration of millions of fans? No. What makes crowdsourcing interesting to me is how we can use it to improve our business. So at eBay, we use the crowdsourcing for a variety of reasons. We do data mining, content generation, data quality analysis, measurement. So in short, crowdsourcing for us is a flexible tool that we can use to approach many different problems in the way that is best suited for that individual problem. So what I'm here to share with you today are 3 insights from my time working on crowdsourcing at eBay, which will help you improve your crowdsourcing efforts within your own company so that you can become a crowdsourcing guru. So I suspect that everybody here knows a little something about crowdsourcing, right? Nobody just wandered in off the street, they're skipping Econ 201 or something. So I don't want to give you a lot of basics, right? I want to talk about how you can improve your work and your business to have better impact with your crowdsourcing efforts. So crowdsourcing at eBay didn't always drive business decisions. You know, we had to work very hard to make our outcomes relevant to the business. And once we were able to make crowdsourcing outcomes relevant to search, we were kind of considered gurus in our team, and people started to come to us. So when other teams have questions about crowdsourcing, they come to our team, and that gives us more opportunities to affect the business at eBay. So to become a crowdsourcing guru within your own organization, I want to share these 3 insights with you. 1 is that you should be Q to your customers James Bond. 2, research is important, so don't skimp at time or money. And 3, you should treat your vendor relationships a little like a marriage, with 1 important difference. So doing these things will enable you to be a crowd guru, and that'll help you improve your business through leveraging crowd data. So the first step of becoming a guru is, of course, to have a guru icon. Mine is Q from the James Bond film. So let me say that James Bond is awesome, right? He's cool, he's suave, he's debonair, he gets the job done, and he gets the ladies. Plus he's got that great Scottish accent, the real James Bond. But what any kid thinks is actually the best thing about James Bond, it's the gadgets, right? James Bond has the best, the coolest, the highest tech, and the most useful and pinch gadgets that anyone could think of. So somebody had to think of and design and build those gadgets, and that someone was Q. So Q Branch specializes in coming up with all the nifty tricks that keep James Bond alive to die another day. So I've long thought that Q was in many respects the real hero of the James Bond flicks, you know? So one could say it's only through the work of Q Branch that you'll only live twice. All right, this is the last one, I promise. So do you begin to see what makes Q so awesome? He's always prepared, he has the right tool for the job, and he knows his customer's business. In this case, his customer is James Bond. So why should Q be your role model? He invariably knew what James Bond needed. He knew James's business perhaps better than that secret agent knew himself. He had the right tool, no matter how esoteric, and he was always prepared. You're heading to the Alps, we'll put the skis on the Aston Martin. You know, going to the Caribbean, we'll put the submersible kit on the Lotus. You know, if you've got bad guys in front, we've got rockets. You've got bad guys behind, we've got oil slicks. Bad guys in the car, ejector seats. So I don't expect that you'll need ejector seats when you're doing some crowdsourcing, although removing the odd spam or 2 is quite satisfying. So for both internal gurus and external crowdsourcing providers, know your customer's business, right? Know what they want and need. Have a selection of tools at your disposal. Be able to go to the wall and select a vendor, grab a crowd, put in the right data into the right task template, and off you go. Your job is to make your customers look good. So modularize your process, figure out what you need, and be ready for anything. So now you might be asking yourself, I want to be more like you. How do I get started? So I'll tell you now. Research. So how do you think it is that Q is able to figure out how to put a rocket into a leg cast or make an invisible Aston Martin? How does he know these things are going to work when the 00 secret agent needs them to? Research. Q research is Q branch spends hours testing and tuning, making sure that every watch laser works perfectly. And while you're a busy agent of crowd management, if you want to ascend to guru status, you need to take some time away from your busy measurement of how awesome your business is and actually put some effort into research. You need to figure out if you're answering the right question with the right workers using the right data. And it may seem like a drain on your business. It takes time away from your core work to work on ideas that may or may not bear fruit. However, research is going to help your ROI for your crowdsourcing business, right? We spend 10 to 20% of our time and our budgets on research efforts. And it may be painful in the short term, but it does bear fruit in the long term, and long term is really what being a guru is all about. So the first step in your path to enlightenment is ensure that you're asking the right question. So here's where the rubber meets the road on research. What's the question that you want your crowd to answer? And this is a surprisingly hard question, as Stephen pointed out earlier. First, you want to know what you want to ask before you can figure out what vendor, what crowd, what data you need to use. And within search metrics and the business of measuring the search experience, we spend a lot of time measuring the search experience. Now, the problem is we were measuring the relevance of search results, and that can actually have, that's actually a little bit tricky. So what we found was we were lacking differentiation in our tests. We couldn't tell one variant from another. You can tell from this rainbow chart up here that in our metric of NDCG, which I don't really want to get into, it's a metric, it matters. We saw very high ratings with very little differentiation between different algorithms. So just by including price and changing the question from how good a match for the query is this item to would you buy this item, we reduced our ceiling effect and increased our differentiation by 10%. So another benefit of this change is that our test now better emulates real site behavior, right? So when we were asking about relevance, people would tell us that a broken iPod was just as good as a working iPod. But if we ask them which one would you buy, amazingly enough, people actually prefer a functional piece of equipment. You can imagine why. So I urge you to do the same. I'm sorry. It seems like a simple change, but it shakes up how we think about judging search results. And I urge you to do the same. Focus on the utility for your end user. It's your end users that are going to drive your business at the end of the day. And driving business, of course, is what makes you a guru. So other changes to our questionnaire interface, which I refer to as a template, include changing the scales. We've tried 3, 4, 5-point rating scales, but never 6, because that would just be ludicrous. We've tried dynamic Ajaxy type presentation layers, static HTML presentation layers. We've tried different options on our rating scales. We've experimented with adding, subtracting, multiplying information in our templates. In short, basically any part of the template, we've experimented on it. And not everything's been successful. In fact, actually probably most of it has been unsuccessful. But I think that's the nature of research, right? Is not everything is going to pay off for you in the immediate term. Not every Q branch invention makes it to the 007 arsenal either, so okay. So, of course, you can't measure anything in crowdsourcing without a crowd. So the next step is to ensure that you have the right workers. So again, seems like a simple idea, can be really complicated. The first step is making sure you're removing the bad actors. So our team works with our largest vendor, Crowdsourcing, to figure out ways to block spammers. We measure inter-rater reliability. We use spam metrics offline, looking for patterns of spammy behavior that may have been missed by gold questions. We work to put in hard gold questions that would catch spammers, but also act as kind of training data for regular workers who are there, acting on their best behalf. So finally, Crowdflower implemented hidden gold for us, which actually doesn't tell the worker if they've missed a question, but it just removes people. So if you're just going through going, yes, 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 you'll miss it, and you just don't get to answer any more questions for us. So we've increased our trust bar for allowing judges in, and we've actually removed entire countries from our roles. So there's workers from entire countries that aren't allowed to participate in our tests. So another step in finding the right workers is understanding your workers' cultural frame of reference. And this is really important if you are in a multinational business like eBay or Kimberly-Clark or any other business for that matter on the internet. So even if your workers and your users speak the same language, they may not use the same vocabulary. So for instance, which of these would you think is a better match for the query jumper? So in the UK it might be a sweater, because apparently they call these jumpers. And if you're an electronics nerd like me, then these guys right here are jumpers, because this is what you stick in your breadboards. So just because the user speaks English doesn't mean that they're necessarily the best person to judge a UK ranking test. So the last step in selecting workers is understanding specialized knowledge. Some tasks require really specialized knowledge. For instance, would you be able to tell the difference between a Solex and MP carburetor for a 69 Volkswagen? They look pretty similar, right? There's actually about $500 of difference there. One of these is twice the price of the other. If I'm not mistaken, it's this one here, because it's actually a race car that's like 50 millimeters thick. So even more mainstream, so there are lots of things in eBay that require really, really specialized knowledge. So for instance, pen collectors. That's a really small niche market of people who are really passionate about collecting pens. I don't know, any pen collectors in here? Yeah, so it's really kind of a tiny market that these people get really, really into it, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on around that. Watch collecting is another similar example that's a little bit more mainstream. But even really mainstream topics, like fashion, require some specialized knowledge. So for instance, can you tell the difference between the shoes on the left and the right? Again, we've got about a $500 difference between them. I personally couldn't tell the difference, but apparently the red sole for the ones on the left is worth quite a lot of money. So understanding the difference between a good and great search result actually is often quite subjective. And we have to really walk a fine line between understanding the needs of our sort of general audience, general public, and our enthusiast market. And to make that happen, of course, takes research. All right, so we've discussed template and crowd. Now we're on to our final leg, getting the right data. So getting the right data, of course, means not having any errors. It's easy to say and it's harder to accomplish. Our team actually once got a quarter of the way through the test and we realized that we were actually testing the exactly wrong variance. It happens. We have tools, processes, and methods that help us prevent from making that mistake again, but even so, it can be kind of difficult to understand sometimes if you've screwed something up, like having a comma somewhere breaking your CSV structure, until you start to get results back and wonder why half of them are out of place. So that's not necessarily a research question, but I think it bears mentioning. You really have to have processes in place to ensure your quality. So again, if you want to be the guru, you've got to kind of walk the walk there. Now, when it does come to research, you want to make sure that you're getting the right items to measure. Is your sample representative, stratified, random? Would changing your sampling methodology make a big difference? It might. So take a look at the two ranking variants here. For the query iPhone, we see no difference in the results. These are two different ranking algorithms. Now, if I change the query to animal perfume for the same thing, don't ask me what animal perfume is, I don't know. Maybe people want their dogs to smell nice, not judging. So what we see is we actually see that there are some different results there. So if you were going to test two different algorithms, which query would you use? Right? Animal perfume is going to give you more differentiation. By switching to a query set that we knew had more differentiation, we not only increased our differentiation in the ranking tests a little bit, not as much as I would have liked, but we actually reduced our costs and our time to complete judgment 5x. And that's not small potatoes when you're talking about the volumes of judgment that we do at eBay. But it's not just about money or even about time per se. Time is really this hugely relevant factor when you're testing, because when you're making decisions, we're actually testing and A/B testing on our site often shortly after we start a crowdsourcing test. And that means that we need to get those results back fast, because if we can get them back soon enough, we can prevent poor performing variants from going out and nobody will ever see those variants. Right? So that saves us time, that saves us money, saves us bandwidth. We can use that bandwidth for testing other things. So in short, we want to put the work in front of your workers that you want them to do. Right? Get the most insight that you can squeeze from your data and choose data that you can actually take action on. So understanding things about queries, broad queries, narrow queries, specific queries, ambiguous queries. So I hope that gives you some insight into how you can leverage research to improve your crowdsourcing business. Use research to make sure that you're asking the right questions of the right people using the right data. And I know that spending time away from your core business is painful, but that work that you invest into research will improve your crowdsourcing ROI for your business and your customers, and it will improve your Q-ness, and then soon you're going to be making jetpacks in your basement. So the next subject I think is maybe a little bit more controversial, particularly my friends who are crowdsourcing vendors. It's how vendor relationships are like a marriage. So how are your relationships with vendors like a marriage? See Jordan's back there laughing. Relationships are based on trust, right? You have to trust that they're acting in your best interest. They should want to help you, right? You know, in the spam removal example I gave earlier, Crowdflower actually helped us remove spammers, even though having spammers in the test would mean more judges doing more judgments, which would mean that they get paid more money. Finally, they're partnerships, and there has to be give and take. So don't just demand that this is how it's going to be. You work with your vendors. If you trust your vendor, C.1, then you want to trust their experience. If they say something's a good idea, give it a shot. So we work with our vendors to try to solve our research questions. How can we get more differentiation? How can we improve reliability? What is the meaning of life, the universe, and everything? So there's one key difference to how your vendor relationships are not like marriage. So how are vendors different than wives or husbands? You shouldn't have just one. There's a lot of risk with having a single vendor supply your crowdsourcing needs. You know, what happens if they raise their prices, move to a different market niche, or God forbid, go out of business? You didn't promise that you'd be there in sickness and in health with your vendors, as you might with your wife or husband. And if they're meeting your needs, maybe it's time to cut and run. Or, you know, maybe the task that you want to do just isn't suited to the kind of thing that that vendor is good at. And that's okay. And maybe the other vendors are better at certain tasks, or have access to certain types of crowds, certain jobs. That brings me to my next point. The secret to a happy marriage is to find a wife or husband who cooks and cleans, a wife or husband who makes good money, a wife or husband who's good in bed, and most importantly, never let those three meet. And don't try that in matrimony, okay? But it works in vendor relationships. It makes sense. Find a team who is best for the thing that you are working on. Now, so what does that mean for our providers of crowdsourcing insights? The lesson for our vendors, of course, is specialize, right? Find what you're good at. Get really good at it. Provide that as a service to your client. So, are you the best vendor in the world for micro tasks? Is your company the bee's knees in the world of content generation? You know, find a niche, own that niche. Build the tools to be successful in that niche. Know and understand your market like nobody else can. So don't try to be all things to all people, or you end up being nothing to nobody. So working with the right vendor can make or break your efforts as a crowdsourcing guru, so choose wisely. But don't be afraid to bail if things go wrong. You know, one of the secrets of being a guru is to let other people make you look smart as you try to help your customers look smart. So in summary, be cute to your clients, James Bond. Give them what they need, even if they don't know they need it yet. Semper paratus, always prepared. Do your research. It hurts, takes time and money away from your core business, but just like eating your vegetables, it makes you stronger and smarter. Ask the right questions of the right people with the right inputs. And have a happy marriage with your vendors. Trust them, but keep some options open. Specialize. Find out a vendor who specializes in what you need and let them help you. I'm going to leave you with one final thought. Being a guru isn't about having all the answers, but it's about knowing what questions to ask. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the conference.